Following The Boys not only being one of Amazon Prime Video's most successful shows ever, but in also breaking its own viewership record with Season 4, the show that we've come to love announced that it was going to be ending with Season 5. However, spin-offs like Gen V and The Boys Diabolical were always going to be continuing and carrying the legacy of the show moving forward. However, there's been a couple of announcements recently. The first in the announcement was that there was obviously going to be the second season of Gen V returning next year, which we've already had one season of, but it was also announced that there was going to be a show called The Boys Mexico. However, most surprisingly, which was saved for Comic-Con and it was announced just yesterday, it was the announcement of a show called Vought Rising. This is the show that I'm most excited for. With there not actually being that much known about it right now, I thought I'd take a look and see exactly what's out there on the prequel series, whilst also looking at the main show and seeing what could feature in it. So let's get into it. Here is the Boys prequel series Vought Rising, Everything We Know. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. So when looking at what the actual description of the prequel show is, it's said to be a twisted murder mystery about the origins of Vought in the 1950s. A show which covers the early exports of Soldier Boy and the diabolical maneuvers of a soup known to fans as Stormfront, who was then going by the name Clara Vought. Stormfront was going by that name as she was married to Dr. Frederick Vought, who was the inventor of Compound V and the founder of Vought American, which later went on to be known as what we now know as Vought International. Before Stormfront was known as Clara Vought, she was known as Clara Reisinger. She was born in Berlin, Germany in 1919. However, by 1933 she was involved in the National Socialist German Workers' Party and shared a lot of their beliefs. Throughout her time in Germany, she was married to Frederick Vought, and it was here where he gave her the first successful dose of Compound V, and ultimately made her the first soup in the world that was a success. I kinda hope that we see some of this backstory actually being depicted on screen. I know the show is set during the 50s, but it feels like all of this will probably be crucial and important to Vaught's rise, considering that's what the show is titled. From there, they then moved to America towards the end of the Second World War, with it looking like the Allies were going to win. And this is where it seems like the show is going to be primarily focused. Following the aftermath of the Second World War and at the dawn of a new decade, the 1950s, we know that Soldier Boy and Stormfront met each other in the 1950s as the both of them together created the event that came to shock us in Season 3 of the show, Herogasm. And it was said that they also shared an intimate exchange there as well. So I wonder if we're going to be seeing some kind of long-lasting relationship taking place between the both of them during that time period. It's said that they founded it in 1952, so we'll probably be seeing the first ever event taking place in this prequel series. That specific episode in Season 3 is one of the show's most graphic that it's ever put out there, and I feel it's probably going to rival that episode in every way possible. With this prequel series being called Vought Rising, it's clear to see that it's going to be focused around Frederick, Stormfront and Soldier Boy sharing similar beliefs in terms of their views on race and Vaught's rise to the heights that it had in that time period. It was said that both Stormfront and Frederick wanted to plot to use Compound V to create an army of soups and launch a global race war. So it feels like we could see something that could be tied into those beliefs and how their views maybe had to maneuver with time. It's actually quite funny because that's pretty much what Homelander's endgame has come to be. An army of soups reigning supreme over the humans. So he's almost fulfilling Frederick Vaught's wish without even realizing it. In terms of Soldier Boy and how his path crossed with Frederick and Stormfront, I feel we'll probably see more of that in the show as well. Soldier Boy was born in 1919 in the United States, and it was once he enlisted in the US Army during World War II where he volunteered to be experimented on by none other than Dr. Frederick Vought. And this was where he was given Compound V and was the very thing that gave him his powers and ultimately made him one of the first soups in the world along with Stormfront, and also one of the strongest soups in the world at that time. In fact, the strongest that there's actually ever been along with Homelander. The other things that are known about Soldier Boy in the 1950s is that in 1951 there was a biopic film released about him which was called The Soldier Boy Story. He obviously met Stormfront, and as well as that, he was involved in the Red Scare. A Red Scare is a form of moral panic which is provoked by the fear of the rise of leftist ideologies in a society, for example, communism. So it very much seems like Vaught's rise to success in the 50s and the post-war mindset of Frederick Vought after creating successful soups in Stormfront and Soldier Boy is what it's going to be focused on. The one thing that does get me a little bit though is the fact that it's going to be a murder mystery type show. That's an angle that The Boys hasn't really gone down before, as we normally see all of the deaths in the most horrific of fashions. I wonder if it's going to be the Supes that will be responsible for the murder, if it's going to be Frederick who's going to be murdered, or if it's going to be a character from that time period that we don't even know yet. It's exciting. Both Soldier Boy and Stormfront being the main focus of this show is almost like the perfect cocktail for great television. Both of them are probably two of the best villains the show has ever produced, and during the 1950s, with Stormfront hiding her true beliefs and acting under the name of Liberty and being this patriotic hero, whilst also being alongside Soldier Boy, who was essentially a Captain America level of superhero in terms of American patriotism, with the both of them being entangled in a romantic sense, which is something that I think will happen, as we know that they apparently had one fling in 1952. I'm sure that's going to happen more as the time period gets explored. But I wonder how Soldier Boy will feel, and if there'll be a sense of naivety to him, and a lack of understanding that he's pretty much going to be in bed with the enemy. So I wonder if he'll ever clock what's going on. One thing that I'm looking forward to a lot about this prequel series as well is the outfits that both of the heroes are going to be wearing. We know that Soldier Boy has had some different iterations of his uniform over the years, so I wonder if it's going to be different to what we saw in the 70s up until the present day. And also Stormfront as Liberty. We were teased about what her uniform looked like in the past in a photo, and it was very Homelander-esque. So it will be interesting to see how she looks, but also how she acts between the different personas. Both Stormfront and Soldier Boy have the capability of carrying out heinous acts and causing mass devastation to the many people that they're around, as we've seen in the previous episodes with their tempers and the sheer amount of strength that lies within their powers. So I'm expecting the show to be just as bloody as what the main show is, and also what Gen V is too. In terms of a release date for this show, it's something that's not been confirmed in the slightest, nor will it be for a long while. But one would have to imagine that it will most likely arrive on screens to fill in the gap once The Boys comes to its natural conclusion at the end of Season 5. When it comes to who's going to be steering the wheel of this show, Paul Grelong, who is an executive producer and a writer on The Boys main series, is going to be acting as the showrunner for Vought Rising, as well as many other executive producers that are familiar from the parent show. Both Jensen Ackles and Aya Cash will also get producer credits as well. So as you can see, there isn't too much that's known about the show as of the time of recording, but I wanted to compile every piece of information that there was about what it's going to be about, whilst also providing some background information of the world of The Boys during that time period. So hopefully it gives some kind of an idea on what to expect. So, there you have it. The Boys prequel series Vought Rising, Everything We Know. If you want to see a full breakdown on The Boys Season 4, then click on the card in the top corner. There's an entire playlist there which will have every episode broken down. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all too. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Is this The Boys spin-off series that you're looking forward to the most? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.